this area appears to have taken the brunt of the fuel oil spill that we've seen from the OS-35. It's come round, due to the tides, it's come round from the east side past Europa Point and it's swept in this way. So you can smell it down here, you can also see it shimmering on the surface of the water, and you can see it clumping a little bit on the rocks. And of course, Little Bay, apart from the beach itself, is also where there's a saltwater intake for the desalination plant. So efforts have been concentrated to try and protect the area here. I'm joined by Mr Warr from the Department of the Environment now. First of all, can you tell us about the efforts to protect the desalination plant here, first and foremost, in terms of the booms, and also the nature of, we've heard that the intake is below the surface. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Christina, and thank you for having me. Well, the Department of the Environment Marine Assets Razor Bill have been assisting the Gibraltar Port Authority with the deployment of absorbent booms, not only at the freshwater intakes at Little Bay, but also at Camp Bay. They're also being deployed as well, as you can see in the background.
And can you tell us about the sorts of technology that's being used here, something called sorbent booms?
Well, an absorbent boom is basically a boom that works by absorbing the oil. So as opposed to other types of boom, it will essentially soak up any oil that comes into contact with the material, and they are quite effective at absorbing the oil.
And these float on the surface of the water. So can you tell us about how the oil moves, essentially? We've heard that it floats on the surface, and that this is one of the reasons that the government says at present it's not too concerned about the desalination pipes which are underwater.
That's correct. So all indications are that the oil is floating on the water. I mean, there was a dive carried out this morning by a group of divers in the vicinity of the intakes to check the area. And what we're finding is that at least these absorbent booms are being quite effective at least soaking up the material that's free floating.
And how can the oil be expected to sort of work from now on? Does it sort of filter out? We've heard about it sort of dispersing. What are the different ways that this could behave, and what is it that you want to see?
Well, there are different ways that oils will behave. You'll probably see with the increasing wind there will be a natural amount of dissipation or wave action acting on the oil, and that will help its dissipation. That will be particularly useful or beneficial for any seabirds in the vicinity, because what we want to avoid is any large clumps of black oil. That will obviously have a more significant impact on any seabirds, such as the Mediterranean shag, which we've seen in the background now. That's one of the species that we are prioritizing our surveillance network that we have operating at the moment, which is composed of a number of different sort of scout members from the department. And also, I'm very thankful for the help of NGOs, particularly the Environmental Safety Group, the Nautilus Project, and the Gibraltar Ornithological and Natural History Society, who've got a vast network of volunteers along the coastline and feeding that information through to the Department of Environment.
So you mentioned there that you've had a number of volunteers from different NGOs. Can you tell us about the work they've been doing today, going around Gibraltar, looking to see if there's been any wildlife that's been harmed?
Sure. I mean, it's been non-stop, Christina. It's been non-stop. We've set up a makeshift seabird rehabilitation centre at our marine base, or the Environmental Protection and Research Unit Marine Base at Queensway Quay. Some presentations were delivered this morning to a group of core volunteers, and the intention is for those volunteers to assist the department, the veterinary clinic, as well as experts working in seabird rehabilitation. We're thankful to have an expert in Gibraltar at the moment, Christian Cortes, who's done some work in South Africa. So he's helping us in terms of getting ready, essentially, in case things get more complicated.
And have you seen any instances so far of any birds that have been harmed? We have seen a picture of a gull that has been...
Yes, we've got a number of reports of soiled yellow-legged gulls at the moment, no Mediterranean shags, and yes, there is evidence already of some birds being affected, although they have not been in distress, which we haven't tried to trap any birds, but if push comes to shove, we're ready.
And in terms of the oil, obviously today reaching the shore, what is the environmental damage that we're looking at right now, if things obviously remain as they are?
Well, oil will have short, medium and long-term impacts. In terms of the short-term impacts, similar to what we saw with the last oil spill with the AM Ghent, the first thing that you will see is possibly an impact on grazers such as limpets and other intertidal mollusks along our rocky revetments, and also obviously oil on our shorelines. There's a group of 8 individuals at the moment focusing on the area of Camp Bay and then Little Bay, later today, and that will be expanded by a group of volunteers, again from the ESG, GONS and the Nautilus project. So there are human resources available and at the ready to deal with any spills that come into land.
And in terms of the impact on Gibraltar's coastline, as we've seen, although this was an oil spill on the east side, it's come round the Gibraltar's geography, or the currents around it have brought it round to this side. So how are you expecting it to sort of affect different parts of the coastline from today onwards?
Well, the currents will typically vary. Obviously, there's a bidirectional current that works its way from the east side down into the strait and wraps around Europa Point, and there's another current that heads straight up in northwest into the Alboran Sea. So we'll likely see both currents taking or actioning on the oil over the next couple of days.
And finally, can you tell us about how the operation by the Department of the Environment will roll out, is expected to roll out over the coming hours and days?
Well, we've got our full team working. We've done a recall and we've got all our trained officers working at the moment. We have a team carrying out drone surveillance operations on the vessel on the east side. We're pleased to be able to count on the assistance of Near Technologies as well, with additional drone capabilities. We've also got a team of qualified field advisors in terms of what to do and where with regards to oil pollution, and there's a team from OSRL as well as Brightside who are taking the lead in as far as the cleanup on beaches is concerned, obviously with the technical advice and management or under the management of the Department of the Environment.
And of course, we've seen the red flag here at Little Bay and at Camp Bay. So is the advice to people, but not at Catalan Bay, for example, as far as I understand, because the oil there has been minimal. So what's the advice to people as regards the beaches? So
at the moment, the advice is basically we're flying the red flag at Little Bay and Camp Bay as a precautionary measure. We're asking the public not to bathe in those beaches. At the moment, the last update that we had 20 minutes ago was that the situation was stable at Catalan Bay. There was no sign of significant oil there, so those beaches remain open for now.